When young hockey players keep complaining about tight hips, here's what most coaches and physios miss. I want to talk about something that I've been seeing way too much in the clinic, and that's young hockey players developing hip issues earlier than ever. And the really scary part of that is a lot of these hips are starting to look like older adult hips rather than kids. You're a coach, parent, a clinician, this is something that you need to hear. I'm Dr. Jamie Phillips. I'm a former professional hockey player. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I specialize in hockey player rehabilitation, and I own Ghost Rehab and Performance, a hockey training center and rehab clinic in Grand Rapids, Michigan. During adolescence, the body is still developing, the growth plates are still open, the bones, we call them soft, but that means they're still malleable, they're still open to changes, and the body is responding to all the demands that are being placed upon it. And the body is going to respond to forces, especially the forces that we see in hockey. Hockey is relatively unique as it loads the body and the hips in a little bit of a vulnerable position. There is a significant amount of hip flexion. There's a lot of hip internal rotation. We're doing this at high speeds, high velocity, and with contact. Not to mention, hockey seasons are very long, and we'll get into this later, but kids are just playing hockey, and the hockey season actually doesn't end. It's just hockey 365 days a year. Bones adapt to stress, and that is great. That is exactly what we want. When we put stress on bones, they are going to get stronger, just like when we put stress and load on their muscles, you will get stronger in time. However, there can be a downside to this as well, and that stress can lead to extra bone formation at the hip. I've been seeing it more and more, and it's been pretty steadily on the rise as hockey in popularity has been growing and the sport specialization is becoming earlier and earlier, is we're starting to see FAI develop. This isn't random. This is the bone reshaping itself to either A, protect itself, B, adapt to the demands that are being put upon it, and especially with hockey, with a lot of those vulnerable positions, those demands and those both bone growth kinda can impact the range of motion of the hip. And the worst part is when working with young athletes and kids, for them to be able to articulate and talk about their pain is very challenging. Plus you add in parental pressures, kids not wanting to upset their parents, the hockey idea of we are super tough and we'll tough everything out. Combine that, we're seeing a lot of more and more of these issues develop early and then go untreated. So if you're a clinician, parent, coach, kids rarely say my hips hurt. It's more, my hips feel stiff, my hips feel tight, my groins are tight. There's like something poking me in my hip and groins. That's kind of the verbiage I hear from most of my young athletes. Another common one that I hear is it takes a while to warm up, or I always feel cold and stiff on the ice. When I hear that, it usually signals to me that it's not a flexibility problem. It signals to me that there's some sort of joint stress signals that are going on in the body. And when this gets worse and worse over the course of the months and months of the season. One of the easiest and earliest signs to look at is that athlete really struggling with hip rotation exercises and positions, so basically a stride or different stability and balance things in the gym. If the hip itself keeps adding bone onto the hip, so both the head of the femur or the acetabulum, which is the socket of the hip, it can lead to a handful of things. It can lead to early impingement, or FAI, femoral acetabular impingement, which I've spoken about in another video. I'll tag it up here. You can get reduced rotation. You can also get early labral irritation or tears. And if you have that as a young athlete or into your teenage years, it can be something debilitating down the road. This is why early awareness matters. And for coaches out there, just saying, just stretch it out isn't enough. This is something I deal with all the time, and I have hockey players each week on my treatment table. So if you're someone who's dealing with hip pain as a young athlete or even an older athlete, just reach out to me, ghostrehab.com. We do remote sessions as well as in-person sessions, but we'll find out what the root cause is and we'll come up with a solution. But here are the red flags that I want parents and coaches to look out for. And if you're not a hockey-specific clinician, and you get some hockey players coming into your clinic, there's something to look for as well. First is tightness that keeps coming back, or you feeling like you can never fully stretch out the hip. Next is a shorter stride on one side than the other. difficulty staying low in that stride, especially feeling pain when you get lower, reoccurring groin pain, a noticeable loss in range of motion, and pain and sharpness when doing crossovers. Now, a lot of these signs are more player related. If you're a goalie, all the signs are related, but just think about butterflies, T-push, RVH, shuffles, all those things, you're gonna put the body in similar positions. And if you get any of those symptoms, then that's a red flag to me. I just want parents and coaches to know that these aren't normal growing pains. They are signs that the hip is losing space and it's starting to struggle under load. However, the good news is if you catch it early, there's a lot that you can do for preventative strategies and maintenance. What to do? Like I said, early intervention is awesome and any intervention is better than not. Thankfully, it doesn't require extreme change. And when I get a lot of my athletes early, we're able to do the rehab work and keep them away from the operating table as they get older. So here's what I recommend. The first is reduce skating loads throughout the season. So just like we periodize working out and we have our in-season, our off-season, our playoff prep, make sure that you are taking adequate time away from the rink when the season is done. This is a hill I'll die on and I'll save it for another video, and I've talked about it at length in my goalie podcast, but you do not need to play spring hockey. When you've played 80 games for the season, you've practiced all the time, take some time off away from the ice. Let your body recover and heal. The next is you need to have strong hips, core, groin, everything around the hip complex, the entire body, if we're being real, but the hips need to be strong. So making sure that you're following a program, and a program that runs all season. Don't just work out in the off season and then stop. A lot of what we see FAI related symptoms and cause is that the muscles that are responsible for counteracting the vulnerable movements, I'll say, are very weak in those athletes and they're not able to stabilize themselves, so the hip gets overworked and it goes into that excessive flexion, internal rotation or load, and then we start to see that bone growth. Third, add movement and sport variety. Now, this doesn't mean go sign up for every club sport, but just go outside, be a kid, run, jump, move around, do different things, develop different motor patterns, build different types of muscles. One of the things that we do here in the gym for our younger athletes, 12 and under, before we start to do more serious strength training, is we do learn to move. And that is running, jumping, cartwheels, rolling, spinning, just getting kids off their screens and moving in ways that they haven't before. Fourth, cleanup technique. If you have access to a power skating coach or a hockey biomechanist or hockey physical therapist, someone like myself, get them to watch your stride, analyze your stride, and then not only can they improve it for efficiency and making you a better hockey player, but as well as keeping your body safe. And finally, don't ignore the tightness. This is more for parents and coaches. If your child is continuously complaining of these again and again and again, or if you see it's like ramping up in the amount of complaints they have, go see an expert or reach out to someone like myself to make sure that we can get it taken care of right away and at least put together a plan of action. Most of my young athletes respond very well with even these simple interventions, and these early interventions do go a long way in helping that athlete perform better, play pain-free, and also extend their career. So if a young hockey player keeps mentioning hip tightness, weakness, all these different things that you mentioned, the pinching down the groin, take it seriously. You can always reach out to me at ghostrehab.com. Myself or one of my team members will take care of you. If you need a strength conditioning program, the link down below is we run a 365-day program. It runs in season to off season. There are scheduled recovery days in there, making sure that we're not overloading our athletes. They are learning to move well and learning to be very efficient and safe athletes. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, you'll also enjoy my 30 ways in 30 days to become a better hockey player delivered right to your inbox. Just click the link down below, sign up, and you'll start to get my best hockey tips delivered right into your email inbox.